Amid an intense heat wave, there is a growing demand-supply mismatch in India's power market. This year, the peak demand remains at around 250 gigawatt amid sustained heat waves, with the average temperatures hovering around 40 to 47 degrees Celsius in several parts of the country, particularly in north of India. There is a push-up in air conditioning load, leading to a struggle in keeping the grid balanced. Tripping of grid infrastructure at several locations across the country has added to the woes of the people. Engineers fear that if steps are not initiated by the government to control the demand for power, there are chances of grid disturbances. Now let's understand what exactly is grid disturbance. Grid disturbance is when tripping happens due to mismatch in demand and supply. This leads to localized power outages. It can have a cascading or a domino effect on the entire grid matrix. So what has led to this crisis situation that we are facing today? It's a lingering structural issue or issues. Slowdown in addition of new capacity coal-fired power plants. Lack of effective storage options for renewable power. Until viable storage options are developed, grid has no option but to fall back on thermal or nuclear for base load capacity. Also, failure to augment base load capacity. The Power Ministry has taken several measures to ensure that there is grid stability. This includes imported coal-based thermal plants to operate it at full capacity until the 15th of October, maintaining adequate coal stocks, idling gas-based thermal plants to remain operational until the end of June, sale of surplus power produced from linkage coal. States allowed to tie up power with those states having surplus capacity via portal for utilization of surplus power. And to speak more on this issue, where almost the entire north of India is facing a heat wave and then there are power outages, I am being joined by Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Director General of TERI. Dr. Dhawan, a very warm welcome to you in this broadcast. It's so horribly hot, isn't it, Dr. Dhawan? I mean, every day that's what we are talking about. But tell me something that, what is the correlation between power outages? Yesterday, we witnessed that at the Delhi airport. I mean, imagine to have power outages at Delhi airport. Explain to us, what is the way out, Dr. Dhawan? How do we tackle this so that everyone gets power and there are minimalistic outages?
See, very rightly said, what is happening in Delhi, we never imagined. And we are actually talking about that this is going to be the impact of changing climate, and heat stress is going to impact each one of us. And it's going to lower our productivity as well. Now, you have introduced the subject so well. That's why it is happening, because demand is far greater than the supply. We are also moving towards renewable energy. And let's face it, solar is number one in terms of supplying energy, renewable energy. And with solar, it is that when you have intense sun's energy, that is the time it is produced. So it is only produced during daytime and not at night. Right now, if we look at illumination levels, yes, they are pretty high, and therefore production of solar energy is good. As I said earlier, the problem is we are not producing solar at night. And within the country, the solar energy in most places, the hours are the same for the production of solar. We lack storage capacity at the moment. It means we have storage capacity, but it's not adequate that whatever is produced during daytime, we rationalize it and use it at night as well. We have to create more of that infrastructure. The other is that very rightly, as a country, we have taken pledge that we are going to reduce coal-based, and with the results, the capacities of coal-based power generation has not been escalated to the level the demand is escalated in last few years. Now, what is important for us? What is important for us is that the government has to rationalize, like as at when the pollution level goes up, we immediately say these are the measures to be taken. Now, one is that we are waiting for government to come with those guidelines, and it may be that the night what operation should be permitted and what should not be permitted, because during day we still have renewable energy with us. But more than that, I'll say it is responsibility of each one of us. How do we control our own use of electricity? It has to be a mass movement. It is very hot, but also let's look into our own lifestyles. We have totally forgotten or of desert coolers. We all have shifted to air conditioners. The second is that we all practically, it is either our houses are centrally air conditioned or every room has an air conditioner. And with the result, it is that demand
Dr.
of
Dhawan,
air.
I'm sorry to interject you here. Only yesterday we were speaking about the pleasure of using water coolers. Of course, there used to be fights about who will fill up the cooler. I mean, I've grown up in India like that. But I want to ask you, you started the conversation by saying solar energy, which is renewable and which is something even the Prime Minister has encouraged to a great extent, the utilization of solar power. In many states, I mean, there are many little towns in the south, for instance, close to Mysuru in Karnataka, where the entire village subsists on solar energy. Tell me, ma'am, on the one hand, we have an imbalance of having 6 ACs in one household, because why not? They can afford it. Fighting that is, really futile. But on the other hand, how do we encourage the utility or usage of solar power energy, Dr. Dhawan? Should it be made mandatory? Like you said, once the pollution increases, the government intervenes and says, do not carpooling, odd even, whatever that they do. What is the way out, doctor?
Yeah, exactly. That you very rightly said that there are houses with six air conditioners, and maybe in each room, each one of the children is sleeping, and we don't try to say why not to sleep in one room or two rooms. That sort of thing is not coming to our mind. And over there, perhaps it should be that you increase the electricity beyond a certain limit, because all of us should be using lesser electricity so that we have enough to share. It's not that I can afford it, and therefore air conditioners is not just my energy usage. It is also that the heat of the air conditioner is going in outside in the environment, and it is making it more uncomfortable for those who can't afford it. There are still many who have to earn their living by being on the road, being on the streets during the daytime as well. Think of the laborers. So that is where it is. Let's not use electricity because we can afford it. It should be more of that we have fixed electricity, and therefore it is to be shared. And government regulations have to come, and they have to penalize those who are excessively using electricity.
That's brilliant, where
Other
you
is we are
say that you have to be penalized, because like I said, by saying to each other, which we do, that do not use so much electricity because your neighbor then will be deprived, has never worked, at least not worked with me. Now, I also want to bring your attention towards maintaining adequate coal stocks. Now, that also is a big problem. I mean, there are lots of news reports how we do not have enough coal stocks. And even if we do, Dr. Dhawan, what about the sale of surplus power, which is produced from linkage coal? Do you think that is a very weak kind of a thing that we are looking at? Because we have been dependent on coal stockage, since the time of independence, Dr. Dhawan.
at that stage, of course, most of the electricity was generated from coal, and renewable energy was very expensive. Today, renewable energy is affordable or even cheaper than the coal based electricity, and it's much cleaner. So while we are concentrating, or we need to have coal, especially for when the demand is very high, most of the time we can meet our demands from the solar rooftop or solar energy. So we have to encourage use of solar, and solar rooftop is one such option. And all the large buildings, houses, and that is where I put it this way, that most of the people are willing to go for it. It's the capex and it's the awareness about the use of solar, that they are not putting solar energy
All
in
right.
their houses. So we
Dr.
should
Vibha
encourage
Dhawan,
that as well.
all right.
And it goes without saying that you cannot have even a day without electricity or even few hours without electricity. And therefore, there is need to maintain adequate coal stocks, especially when the temperatures are so high. And we also have to look into other opportunities, how we can generate adequate energy to meet the demand.
Dr. Vibha Dhawan, I have to take a break, but when we come back, we shall focus back on this story about intense heat wave in this country and power outage. After the break, see you on the other side.